Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good
I'm
evening.
going to go ahead and call the meeting to order for right now. It's 5 p.m. March 31st, and this is the City Charter Review Committee. As I said, we'll call the meeting to order, and first item up is introductions, and I'll start with myself. I'm Dennis Doughton, City Administrator for the City of Lewiston, and I will kick it over to Patty Gagnon for introductions.
Thank you, Dennis. Patty Gagnon, Patty Gagnon. I'm recently retired from Allstate Insurance. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I've lived in Lewiston since 1998. Has it been that long? Or 28 years, actually. Excuse me. I've been living in Lewiston 28 years. And I am excited to serve in this committee. It's unique.
Thanks, Patty. Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Morgan. I sell real estate locally. I've just turned 65, so I only got about 25 more years.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be on this committee because I don't have to do anything but once every couple months.
Thank you, Steve. Jennifer?
Hi, Jennifer Williams. I'm the Transportation Director at AvCog, ATRC, and pretty much a lifelong resident of Lewiston, with the exception of the first 10 years I was married, lived in Otisfield. But other than that, we've been back in Lewiston for 16 years.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. Linda?
Hi, I'm Linda Scott, an all-time member of the City of Lewiston. I've always lived here. I'm very excited to be part of this process. I feel like we all kind of already know each other, so I think that's a great way to start. And I'm going to second Steve's nomination already, even before we get there, just so you know.
I had a feeling it might go that way. Ed, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Ed Barrett. I'm retired city administrator in Lewiston. I retired at the end of June. I have 45 years plus in local government management, including, what was it, about 33 years as chief executive of local government. And of course, I live here in Lewiston, and it's all Steve's fault that I'm here, because he was on the council that hired me.
Yeah, if I could take that back.
Well, we're pretty happy with that. We appreciate their work on that. Roger?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Excuse me, Roger Philippon. I too recently turned 65, although I think Morgan's older. I turned 65 in December, at which time I retired from full-time employment at Central Maine Community College. I'm still doing a few things for the college, happily. I've been on the city council a few times, planning board, on the finance committee now, been on that before as well. But most significantly, serving on a charter committee or charter commission is something I make it a point of doing every 42 years or so. Because I served on the 1978-79 Charter Commission that came up with the document that currently serves the city. So here I am. I was the middle school representative, of course, on that group. But here I am, back again. So this will be interesting.
Thank you, Roger. Francis?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Francis Gagnon. I don't know how long I've been in Lewiston, but 20-something years. I grew up in the western mountains of Rumford, Maine, and but love Lewiston because French background, and Lewiston always felt like home. My parents even sold their property and I live in an apartment house, and they live below us now. They're snowbirds, so they're in Florida right now enjoying life, but they'll be back soon. I actually served with Linda for a few years on the Lewiston School Committee. So it's nice to have you here and be working together. And my life has been a whirlwind, as many of us have seen in the last few months, year, I guess. So I'm a small business owner. I've owned Via Vision Productions for many years. It's a video production company. And I also bought Photo Finish about 12 years ago in the Arbor Mall. Sold that last August. Still help out when they need it. And Then I opened a cafe in the Auburn Mall for about 6 months. It was very successful and we enjoyed it. It was a Franco-American cuisine. But unfortunately, with the circumstances that the world is affecting right now, we decided to close it. And in the meantime, I've been bouncing around. I had a seasonal job with Pepsi last summer. I worked with Adecco recently with Mr. Boston Brands for 6 months. And the government compliance, really fun name there, but I've enjoyed that. Actually, tomorrow's my last day there. And I found out I just gave my official okay with Bates College. So I'll be working there as a permanent position, hopefully for the next however long it will be, maybe 20 years, I hope. So it was interesting. It all hit at once. I got all kinds of offers in the last like week and a half, 2 weeks. So I'm glad to be staying here right in Lewiston.
What are you doing at Bates?
It's really interesting. It was a challenge to find out what I was going to do. But I actually applied for something very simple. It was just a cashier position. Just why not, right? And I ended up getting a supervisor position. There was a position that I interviewed so well that they decided to bump me up to a supervisor position in the dining services.
Nice.
Nice.
Plus you get to eat all that good food out there.
Yeah.
You have good
It's
food.
good.
It is
One of the
good.
benefits.
It is, yeah.
Congratulations, Francis. That's good news.
Thanks.
Well, good. Well, that completes the introductions. Thank you, everyone. And I think the moment everyone's waiting for, the item number 3, election of a chair. So I will open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Steve Morgan.
I nominate Ed Barrett.
I'll second the nomination of Steve Morgan.
I'll second the nomination of Ed Barrett.
Let's not mess around here.
Let's see. So that's interesting. I wasn't anticipating 2. So I guess is,
Well, I don't accept my nomination.
I was just going to say, do you accept the nomination? I might rule this out. So Ed, do you accept the nomination for you?
Yeah, I would be happy to if nobody else really wants to do it.
Okay.
I would also be happy to step aside for anybody else who would like to take it on.
Okay. So I guess we do have one valid nomination on the floor with Ed Barrett. Any other nominations before we take action?
Move nominations closed.
Okay. So we have a nomination, Ed Barrett, on the floor. I think we'll just do a simple hand raising for this vote. All those in favor of Ed Barrett as the chair? That passes unanimously.
Yeah.
Ed, I'm going to make you official co-host with me.
Oh, boy.
It is now official that you now control the meeting with me, and I'm going to go ahead and pass over the agenda to you at this point.
Sure,
Is this
but
being recorded?
yes, it is being recorded.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Before you get too far, why don't you run through for us all what the schedule is that we're working against and what our deadlines are?
Certainly. So in the memo that I provided, I'll go through and highlight again. But there was a memo. In the memo contained just a basic timeline. And where we are right now in that timeline is the committee review process that starts in March. We just barely made that in March, for the last day of March through June of 2021. Where the timeline starts to, where the key parts of this kind of go from there. The council is looking for a final report and recommendations to the city council from this committee by July of 2021. Then we would, in order to, depending on what is being forwarded and accepted to be moved forward in terms of, changes in the charter, a public hearing would need to be held in August of 2021. And then we need to have the final wording to our city clerk for any changes by September of 2021. And that allows her enough time, or our city clerk enough time, to be able to get the language on any of the ballots that are going forward to the voters in November. That's the basic high level timeline here. And I can certainly answer any, specifics or questions related to that at this point.
Anybody have any questions about the timeline? Yes, Linda.
So
I think Linda froze up.
The
Yeah.
worst time for her.
She shouldn't be shy. We're all friends here.
Well, we can come.
oh crap.
There we
Oh,
go.
there she is.
You're back.
You're back,
I'm
Linda.
back. Okay, so I was just wondering if we were going to have enough time if we were meeting once a month, meaning 4 meetings.
That was one of the questions that I had too. I know that I was on the last charter review committee in 2011. And that committee, I think, started off meeting either weekly or bi-weekly. I think weekly may be a little much, but I think probably monthly is not enough. So I guess my kind of suggestion at this point is that we consider the next meeting maybe in 2 weeks and see how things go from that point, and we can decide, or at least get an idea of how quickly we're going to get through things. Of course, 2011 was the first time the charter had been looked at since Roger wrote it. And there were a lot of changes that were made at that time. A lot of it was just editorial and cleaning up stuff and minor stuff, but there was a lot of changes made then. I don't know that there are a lot of minor changes this time, but there are some big ones that have been thrown out there for us to consider. So
There are a lot of spelling mistakes.
there were a lot of he, she's, for example, and that came up.
Roger wrote it.
That came up this time. I have to chuckle because we very carefully tried to make the document gender neutral in 2011. I missed one he in the entire document. And 2 people have pointed out that we need to make the charter gender neutral. So I had a chuckle about that one. Actually went and did a word search on the charter to make sure. So I guess my suggestion would be that we look to maybe meet in 2 weeks and see where we are. And hopefully by then we can have a little bit better work plan put together. One of the things I was thinking, I'd be glad to volunteer if this would make sense, would be to I have a Word copy of the charter, and I can go through and take all of the comments from the counselors, from the staff, from the school committee, plus a couple of items that I'm aware of, and just annotate the existing charter so that we can see what all of the questions are, all of the issues that have come up so far. And of course, I'd also say if anybody else in the group has issues they want to bring up, because I have a couple others that I don't think were on that list, we could include those as well. That would give us at least a starting point to see how many issues we have to get through, and maybe see how much, as I recall, the last time around, we had like almost a meeting on each section of the charter, and I don't think that's necessary this time. Because I think there's just a couple of big areas that need to be addressed. So that would give us a better idea of what's on our plate, maybe in a couple weeks. Does that sound like an initial plan?
Does.
I noticed Francis mentioned that 5 o'clock is too early for him soon. So
Well, now that I have this new position, I'm not even sure what my schedule will be yet, so.
okay. Does Wednesdays work for people generally? I know it works
Wednesdays
for
work for
Dennis.
me.
If I could
Yeah.
change it, I'd like to. Or if we could.
Okay,
It's just a golf league night, but I mean, if we're done before May.
yeah,
I
So
hate to mention it,
once
but
a month would be perfectly fine to miss a Wednesday, but twice a week, twice a month
mhm.
would be tough on a Wednesday for me, I think.
I know, I believe I'm gonna have Mondays available.
I'll be
Mondays.
flexible.
Not easy being retired, is it?
Got a lot of golf.
Mondays, I think generally work for me. Does that work for everybody else? Dennis, you
Mon-
okay with?
I'm sorry,
Then-
Mondays don't work for me because I've got planning board meetings on Mondays.
Ah,
Okay.
mhm.
And I have finance committee on Wednesdays.
Right.
Oh, jeez, we're all over the place.
I mean, we can stick to Wednesdays. That's fine.
So I just want
What-
to, I did a pretty good review of the schedule. I think Wednesdays are one of the only nights that there isn't another conflict.
That's fine.
But yeah, because, obviously Tuesday nights are council meetings, maybe Thursdays. It might be some Thursdays we could look in there, possibly that
Yeah.
might be we have budget. So right now, for at least myself, it's a little tough for the next month or so, but after that, Ed knows, Thursdays generally are okay, for the most part. So.
Okay, well, why don't we at least plan for the next meeting to be in 2 weeks on a Wednesday?
April
Um,
14th.
And we'll start it a little later.
Well, I was gonna say, Francis, you don't know what your work schedule is yet?
No, because they literally, yeah, no, I don't.
Just
I
call
believe I'm
it.
gonna have Sunday, Mondays off. That's gonna be my regular, but I did mention this to them and they said they would certainly work with me to make sure things work out.
Okay, so do we want to try for 5 or 5:30?
I'd like to go even later. Dennis, Wednesday, the 14th is LATC at 4:30. And now that I am kind of handling the interim transit coordinator position as well, I cannot leave that meeting early.
Anytime is okay with me, so go with what works for others.
Time is good with me too. It doesn't matter the time.
So
I have
Right.
romantic rendezvous with my wife every Wednesday and Thursday, usually between 5 and 5:30. They only last a minute.
Oh,
But-
okay. So if LATC starts at 4:30, that's gonna run till what, at least 6?
It's gonna run till at least 6.
I'm wondering, is it, maybe to suggest just to not put us on that rotation if everyone was open to this, and I know this is a quick turnaround, but perhaps we look at next Wednesday, 1 week from today, meeting, no, that's no good, or then,
Transit study public meeting.
yep.
Yeah, that's,
So how about the 21st then potentially, so it doesn't put, because then it's Wednesdays are generally, the public meeting on transit is a one-time thing that's not
Right.
normally, there. And it's, if we pick a 2-week and we put it on that rotation, we're going to always run into LATC
right.
being a conflict. So I'm just trying to put us on a different rotation. I'm thinking,
Yep.
21st works.
21st works?
That works for me.
Okay, why don't we plan on the 21st at 5 o'clock? Okay, let's do that.
What time again? I'm sorry.
5 o'clock.
Okay.
And then what I'd ask everybody to do in the meantime is to take a look at the issues that have been presented by the council, by staff, by the school committee, and take a look at the charter and see if there's anything else that you're aware of that needs to be addressed. There are a couple things that I think need to be, that I would like to at least discuss. One is, well, we have to redo the budget process because the state has preempted the school budget process and it no longer works with what's in the charter. So that has to be redone. Secondly, there's a bizarre provision in the charter about what happens if the council doesn't adopt the budget. That is totally unworkable. So that needs to be revised. Basically, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's if the council doesn't adopt the budget by the end of May, the city administrator has 72 hours to meet with the school chair, the chair of the school committee, and the mayor, and put together a budget proposal that goes back to the council. And if they, at that point, within 72 hours, and if they don't adopt it, it goes into, if they don't adopt another budget, it goes into effect. It just doesn't work anymore. And I used to always just read that and grimace and hope I never had to go through it. There's always been confusion about the mayoral appointment process. And I think that should be cleaned up. And there's a confusion about ad hoc committees. You've got ad hoc committees that the mayor sets up, but you also have committees that the council sets up. And there's confusion about whether appointments to committees that the council creates have to be made by the mayor. So it's just a confusing issue that comes up all the time. So those are some of the things that I've picked up in the charter that are problematic. And would certainly be open for anybody else as they read through it and sees things that might want to raise some questions or issues. The other thing that I have that you might find useful, National Civic League puts out a model charter. And I have a copy of that that I can share with all of you, and it gets into things, some of the big issues that the council raised about staggered terms, length of term, all of those kinds of things. It offers a number of alternatives and different approaches to it. So I can send that out to you all to take a look at.
Great.
Any other issues that haven't been brought up, let me know either now or later. Yes, Linda.
A question I have, so when I was watching the city council meeting, one of the discussions that Dennis brought up was talking about some of the state laws and ordinances that may be involved with charters and I wonder if we can get a link to that also,
Sure.
if there's
Dennis,
something specific.
Yes, there are two or three sections in state law that, and this gets into the next item on the agenda about revisions versus amendments.
Mm-hmm.
There are different processes in state law or different processes you can take. If you are amending a charter, it's one process. If you are revising a charter, it's another process. And the basic difference is an amendment is a relatively minor change and a revision is a significant change. Where it really, for example, if we wanted to get rid of Dennis and get rid of the city administrator and make the mayor the boss, like it was back in the 60s, that would be a revision. And it would have to go through a separate charter commission, which is elected. So people would run for a charter commission, get elected, and then appointed. Revisions are things like getting rid of he, she, addressing some like the budget process where we're already out of compliance with state law. That would be an amendment to reflect state law changes, things like that. So a lot of stuff. And the big problem is it's not always clear what's what. There are no clear definitive guidelines for what's an amendment versus what's a revision. So as Dennis, I think, mentioned in his memo, we would need to have a city attorney take a look at it. Some stuff I think would be pretty clear, or other stuff might be in a gray area. So one of the things we're going to have to, I think, struggle with somewhat is how we want to approach that issue. A lot of the things that the council in particular put on the table would probably be revisions. So the question is, do we want to deal with those in detail or just generally? Or do we want to do the whole thing as if we were rewriting the whole charter and then let the attorney figure out what could be done as an amendment that could go on a ballot in November versus what would need to be done by a charter commission if the council wanted to go that route.
Okay.
So I think that's that's one of the interesting things we'll see as we go through these issues and lay them out in the charter, is which of them are significant enough that they might need to get an attorney to look at, which one might not. In fact, we can probably get some early guidance on that, couldn't we, Dennis?
Good.
Should.
Okay, so I will send out anyway. I'll send out a copy of the NLC's model charter. It's a pretty lengthy document. You may only want to look at parts of it as issues come up. Let's see, revisions versus amendment we've covered. Committee review process and recommendation development. I think I'll put together a starting document that kind of identifies all the issues that have been brought up and lays them out as comments on the existing charter. And then once we get that at the next meeting, we can start going through it and get a better idea of how we might want to break things up. The big issues, I think, are going to be obviously relating to the chart, to the council, staggered terms, the role of the mayor, those kinds of things.
Yep.
Anything else? We have any public, Dennis?
We have one member of the public, but I'm gonna call him out. It's actually our deputy city administrator, and I know he was extremely interested in this conversation, but he also just might be checking that I'm operating this Zoom correctly.
Okay,
Maybe more, but I'll give him a second to raise his hand in case
Yeah.
he's got a comment. But I think
if he's here, he needs to comment. No lurking in the background.
we'll see if he's paying attention if his hand pops up. I'm not seeing it, so it looks like he's gonna stay quiet at this point. I do see Francis.
Okay, Francis, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Thanks. You mentioned something about early guidance from the attorney. When I watched the video from the city council, I know there was discussion about certain things that they mentioned that that might be reviewed. Was that done ahead of time, or hasn't been done yet?
So no, there was some. Sorry, Ed. I think.
No, go ahead. You know the answer. I don't.
Yeah. Basically, there was a few legal questions. For instance, one of them, the big legal review came. The question came up as you look at the list, as Ed already spoke about. Many of these items are clearly charter commission items. They need to go through a charter commission process because they're big changes. And so really the question became, should we do the review committee, this committee, or just, go right to the charter commission? Are we allowed legally to be able to do that? The answer was no. The charter does require the charter review committee step first, and then depending on those recommendations, they would come out and then again go through all the steps that Ed's already kind of highlighted, through between revisions and amendments and that. So really that was the only legal review. I did share the list, with the attorney, just so that they were aware of obviously what was initially on the slate of things to be reviewed. So we understood what, again, that revision versus amendments discussion, but that's really all they commented on at this point, and really just discussed the process again a little bit, and where the city attorney would plug in for review as needed. So that's the only legal review at this point.
Linda.
Yeah, a couple more questions I thought of. So what you mentioned about the budget, is there this new state laws? Is there something that we can get a link to look at that also in regards to the changes that were made in respect to that language?
It's a pretty lengthy part of it. All goes back to when the state went to the voter ratification process for school budgets. It basically, number one, says first off that the school budget can be passed by 4 members of the city council, even if the budget exceeds the charter spending limit. Okay, so that number one wipes out part of the charter.
Right.
Second, the fact that the public adopts it screws up the rest of the charter.
Okay.
So it just no longer works. The original framework just no longer works because it's now all laid out in state law.
Right. Okay. I got you on that. How about public involvement in this besides public comment at each meeting? Is there a notification that's going out? Is there going to be any kind of conversation with the public around this?
Yeah, I think we need to have a session probably relatively early on where we invite the public in to comment. It might be appropriate to do that after we put together that original list of issues and things for the meeting on the 21st, and maybe shoot for one of the next couple of meetings to have public comments on those issues. I don't know how big a burning issue some of this stuff is, but it would also give an opportunity for current elected officials to comment.
Yep.
And last time around, we had a lot of interest from prior elected officials. So I think we might want to also make them aware of this and give them the opportunity and see how many are actually have something they'd like to bring to our attention.
Okay.
Good idea.
So maybe we'll shoot for doing something there in May,
Okay,
one of the, at some point in May, so we can get some information before we need to make final decisions. Be early in May if we have to get this done by July.
right.
Question,
Oh,
Yes, Steve.
timeline of any kind as far as the meetings, how long they go? Like, we're gonna be done here in a few minutes, and I'm assuming that you're giving people a chance to review the city charter and some of the suggestions that people have made in the reports that come out, which 25 so, which are good suggestions.
Mhm.
Are we going till 6, or is that the typical knockoff time, or can we, if everybody can hang around, should we go to 6:30 and then maybe we'd get done the end of May? Who knows? I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I would think we'd want to allocate it anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours if necessary. Because once we have that list of issues, we'll be spending time talking about each one of them.
Yeah.
So we can see how, I think at the next meetings, we'll see how many issues are on the list. We'll see how many of them are really worth debating. Some of them will be. I know we talked at length last time around. And again, I was playing Dennis's role last time, so I didn't have a chance to vote. But there was a lot of discussion about staggered terms at that session too. And the group decided not to recommend them, in part because the prior city administrator was on there, and he'd been around when that charter was written. And he thought it was a good idea to be able to throw all 7 council members out the door every 2 years if we didn't like them. And basically said he had not seen a lot of huge turnover on the council. That has kind of changed.
Yeah,
mhm.
In fact, more recently, since I've been here, there's been a pretty consistent turnover on the council each time there's an election.
school committee too.
How many were new this time, Dennis? Yeah, school committee has been, I think, even worse.
Right.
So I think situation may be different this time, but I think there's an argument both ways. Some people like the idea of throw all the bums out every 2 years and bring in a new set.
I like the long version myself. Every 2 years you have to teach somebody where the bathroom is and go through the basics. By the time they've got their feet wet, they're 6 to 12 months into it sometimes.
Yeah, and it's also very awkward because as soon as they get elected, they're frequently thrown pretty quickly into a budget process.
Right.
Right.
You know?
Why,
And
budget's easy.
only if you have Heather doing it for you.
Right.
Dennis knows that story. Okay, let's see. So does anybody else have any questions before Patty?
Yes. So is your thought process that we're going to go down through each item on that list, starting with the top going down? Or are we going to look at something like the budget being a huge item to tackle first? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I guess my tendency would be to start at the beginning of the charter and work through it, but I'm open for other people's opinions.
Excuse me,
So
I didn't mean just the charter, but the list from the council that they wanted to address.
Oh, I'm going to take a copy of the charter and put notes by all of the sections that they brought up with what they've
Okay.
recommended we look at,
Perfect.
so that you can see by section what the proposal has been made. And
Perfect.
again, for everybody's benefit, I went back and watched that discussion. There was no formal or informal votes by the council. That's just a list of what everybody was throwing out. So there's no
Okay.
guarantee that there was a majority opinion on any of it.
Thank you.
I think,
And if I could just add quickly to what just Ed said there, I think there really was a kind of a sentiment from the council of they want to hear the committee review, right, and feedback on those subjects. So I think a lot of it was some ideas in some aspects of we want this just to be looked at and reviewed and then, hear from the com. I think they're reserving any final kind of decisions or votes till they get this process through. So
Roger, I think you had your hand up.
thank you. Yeah, I think I think for me anyway, it would be very helpful if we take a look at the charter as a whole and where all of the suggested and recommended changes are, kind of get that global perspective. Because, some changes that we look at in one section might have an impact on another.
Right.
And I think after we do that, we'll probably be in a much better position to decide, okay, what are we going to tackle first? What might take more time? There might be a lot of low hanging fruit that we can
Mhm.
probably take care of rather quickly. And other things are going to, probably take a lot more time.
Right.
Okay, and Steve, did you have something else?
Yeah, the third item down was charter review versus charter review committee versus charter commission. Did we discuss that? And what is the discussion, I guess?
Well, I think the discussion could be, we could have one meeting and look at all these issues and say, no, it's not worth having time, have a committee look at this. Our recommendation to the council is form a commission. Let's just go right to the commission because some of these issues are of such consequence that we're going to need one anyway. Alternatively, we could go through and make recommendations on all of those items and refer those recommendations to a commission. They wouldn't have to take them, but it would be, hey, we really think you ought to look at this. This is important. So I think we have that option. And at the same time, we could also be going through and just saying, well, these are simple changes that need to be made. We got to make them now.
We don't have a commission at this time, though, right?
No, we would have to.
We have to be developed and.
Yeah, and basically the way that works is people take out papers and run for positions and they get elected and they have so long to come back and put together their proposal and it goes right on the ballot. Doesn't even go through the council, goes right on the ballot. So it's kind of like having a constitutional convention. It's kind of like what the county did when they adopted their charter. And then went through in the dark of night and changed it when nobody was paying attention.
That sounds a little too American to me.
Uh-huh.
The review committee.
That's what we had back in '79, Steve. We had an elected charter commission.
Mhm.
We proposed a whole new charter and it was approved by the voters. June
Yes,
of
well,
79.
Well, Lewiston was known worldwide for its old charter as one of the most dysfunctional documents that had ever been created for local governments to operate by.
Right here. The 1939 Board and Commission Charter, yep.
Yep. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we had an attempt in '71 to have a new charter. That was turned down by the voters.
And there are
Really?
The Great Charter Commission of '79, of course, yeah.
and there are some elements of that very old charter that have been carried forward through all of these changes.
Mhm.
So, for example, why do planning board members have 5-year terms? Planning board members have 5-year terms so that the mayor can't appoint all of the members to the planning board within one term in office.
Ah,
Aha.
Yeah,
You know, I've
one
always
change
thought-
though, yeah. One
always
change
thought
from the 1939 charter went even further and said that there could not be more than 3 members of the majority party on any board and commission. So you can only have like 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, or 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats.
Mhm.
You could have 4
Really?
and 1, 5 and 0.
It was a truly unique governmental structure
Mhm.
that very few places. There were a few other commission cities in the country, but not very many. Anything else? Okay, well, I very much appreciate it. It's been fun already. I think it'll be
Already?
interesting going through this process. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the 21st.
Very good. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Dennis.
thank you.
Thank you.
And
Good
we
night,
are adjourned.
Yay.
Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.